Welcome to the Fit2 Talk podcast.
You just found the #1 health and fitness podcast for performers. Thank you for joining us as we bring you meaningful, helpful, and accurate information. And
remind you that fitness doesn't have to be boring.
Right now, you're listening to one of our talk episodes. Just realised that I love it when you say that and you do it in like quite a boring voice.
How dare you? How dare you? You come on this podcast and you just shots fired. Okay, I see how it's going to be in this episode. Fine.
Do it again.
Okay, sorry. Remind you that fitness doesn't have to be boring.
I appreciate that. It's just that normally, you go full wacky.
Full what the hell's full wacky?
Some people go full whack. You go full wacky.
Full wacky. Okay, fine.
On the intros. So I've come to expect it. Sorry, if you're listening, this is your first episode. This seems chaotic. Basically, a talk episode.
This is chaotic.
A talk episode is where Bobby and I talk about stuff. We'll have a little catch up. We'll see what's going on in life. We'll cover a few things, and then of course we will provide you with some coaching gold.
And
gold. Oh, there it is. Full wacky, baby.
Full wacky.
If you like what we do, then please leave us a review.
Yeah, on that note, cue the wacky music.
It's Fit2 Talk. We're back.
Yes, we are.
We
are back.
Bobby was raging at me for the wacky comment.
I'm confused. More than I'm confused.
Do you find wacky offensive?
Full wacky? No, I've never heard of full wacky.
I don't
full
think
whack?
Yeah, full wacky's not a thing.
Okay. I always hear in my head I went full wacky.
To clarify, Bobby has not been smoking wacky before this.
I promise you I've not.
That's not why he's so chill.
No, I'm not chill in any way right now.
Well, on the flip side, some could say that you're quite tired.
I'm very tired. You can almost certainly hear that in my voice. I sound like I've been eating gravel.
A healthy performer's voice.
Yeah.
So, in an exciting twist that we get to talk about on the podcast. Why are you so tired, Bobby?
I have had a child.
That was the most casual way of dropping that in, by the way.
And by the way, I have had a child. Yeah, I'm a dad now.
You are officially a dad.
So, I am.
One, you're now a representative of a dad bod.
Yep, I'm living that dad bod life.
Which is fantastic.
Yep.
So you've had a little baby.
I have. And he's actually 1 month old today.
Yay!
Yeah. It is wild. It's a wild ride.
Yeah.
It is a wild ride. It's not in any way like I thought it was going to be. And it is just relentless.
That is how I thought it was going to be for you.
It is relentless. Like, there's just this little human that you are entirely responsible for all of the time. But it's amazing. Like, it's an incredible experience now. Now. The birth was not, but that's probably not something we should talk about.
Well, do you know what? In general, I think it's worth mentioning that usually on the podcast, we're pretty open about what's happening with our lives and the process, and we like to take people on that journey with us usually. But we have sort of not so much kept this secret, but we haven't publicly discussed this. Do you want to just let people know why that is?
Yeah, it was more of a case of like, Sam and I decided that we just wanted to keep it like not quiet, but we just didn't really want to like spread it around that this was happening. Partly for a number of reasons. Partly it was something very private to us. Partly kind of both of our ages and like complications. It was one of those things that
22 now, right?
Oh yeah, just a solid 22. Years older than everybody else.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things where it just felt like the right thing to do, to not keep it secret, but not like openly talk about it. And you're right. Like on the podcast, we are very open in general about as much as we possibly can. But I kind of felt like this was something that Sam and I needed to keep for us. We just wanted to keep it for us and Bert, obviously.
Bert is Bobby's dog, for anyone that doesn't know.
It's not some random extra person.
Yeah.
So that was kind of where we were at. And then we've kind of made the decision now that we'd happily talk about it. We're still keeping we're making an active decision other than like the post. We did a post where we kind of announced that he had arrived. But other than that, we're not really going to put him on social media in any way. But like, I'm more than happy to talk about him and about the process and about what it's like, the highs and the lows and everything on the podcast, because I think that's quite interesting. And it's something that I think will be quite nice for me to talk about.
Yeah. I wonder, let's jump back then, because I think there is great value in this. And as people who are in the industry go through those periods of their life when, quite a lot of performers do put off those traditional life things till later than most people, because it almost feels like you have to in order to pursue the thing that you want to do. So that process of wanting to have a baby and then going through the pregnancy, obviously you yourself weren't pregnant, but
true.
And then what was your experience of that then, knowing, because you were in a show at the beginning and then that disappeared. Like, can you just tell me what that was all like as a self-employed person?
It's very difficult, like, because you kind of, you're right. Like when we first got pregnant, I was about to go into the show. Yeah, I was about to go into the show. So I knew I had the show. I was going to the show and I thought, okay, fantastic. This is going to be great. I'll get a little bit of paternity leave, but I'll be stable I'll have an income that's coming from that. And I can kind of make things work with that, with Fit2, with the baby, like all these things will be fine. And like, I'd kind of put into place like everything. I thought, okay, this is going to be great. It's going to work. It's going to be fine. And then obviously the rug gets kind of pulled from under us in terms of the show. Like the show shuts a lot earlier than I thought. It shut a whole month before, or 2 months before the baby was due. And yeah, that kind of, it makes things very difficult in that you go, well, okay, Sam is also self-employed. She won't mind me saying this, but she had quite a difficult pregnancy. It was very difficult on her, physically and mentally. And it meant that she had to stop her teaching a lot earlier than she was hoping. And her teaching is so important to her. She loves it so much and she's so invested in her students that brought its own kind of toll with it, in that, one, she's not earning any money, and two, she's kind of lost that kind of like that big part of her that she has with her teaching. And that happened. And then obviously my kind of financial system setup changed, and it's very like unsettling sometimes when you think about it and you go, okay, this is tough. And then like, well, I've not got any technical paternity leave. Like obviously I took paternity leave from Fit2.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, I did. But that's difficult. Like Sam has no maternity leave. Like she has the statutory maternity, but that's like a couple of pennies. And I obviously have no, like, other than outside of Fit2, I don't have any paternity leave. So it is getting back into work is very difficult. And then you're negotiating, then you're kind of navigating the situation of, well, I've got to go back to work, and how much can I go back to work? How often am I in the office? Like, how much time can I dedicate to it? Well, I also need to look after Lenny, and then wanting Sam to get back to work. So it's very difficult. It's just, and it's interesting. Like we know a few other people who are pregnant, and like they're employed and they're going through like that kind of side of things. And it is like, I don't want to make it sound bad for us, but it's a lot easier when you're employed. Yeah. It's a lot easier. It's really not when you're self-employed, particularly for the woman. Like, it's just that situation, like maternity leave, and
especially if you're a single mother, expecting in that situation as a self-employed person. That, like, I actually don't know how that's even possible. How people manage to do it. They must have so much support, because it just, I don't know how it's done.
And I think this is the thing. Like, I didn't realize, in general, I didn't realize how much support you needed and how important it was. And that was something I wasn't expecting. And like, support is so huge. Like I was very grateful for your support. Like during the labor, like Bert wasn't very well, and you very kindly looked after Bert the entire time that I was in the hospital with Sam, and we were in the hospital for a long time. And it's kind of it's difficult because you need support, and you're right. Like if you're a single parent going through it alone, then I honestly have no idea how they manage it. And hats off to them, because it's incredible, because it's tough enough as it is with both of us and one child, let alone a single person with maybe twins. Like all of a sudden you're like just ramping it up, and it's hats off to all the single parents out there, all the parents of twins, and also who's got a second child. I'm like, it's anybody going through it is like
superhero.
It's a wild experience.
It's weirdly like superhero-esque, but also the vast majority of human beings seem to do it. You're like, how do you even do this? But what I was really surprised by, I think, and John, this isn't specific to Sam's process, but what actually happens, hormonally to a woman throughout that process is so like, we will never be able to understand that. And I wanted to ask you about this because there's that sort of classic feeling that you sort of feel almost other to the process, or helpless, or like an accessory. I mean, that's like, did you feel that at all? And at what points, and how did you manage it, if so? I
definitely didn't feel like an accessory. I think Sam was very good at kind of keeping me involved in it. I definitely never felt like an accessory. The thing I struggled with was wanting to help, desperately wanting to do things to make her feel better, to help the process. And sometimes there's nothing you can do. And making peace with the fact that there's nothing you can do is a tough thing. And like, particularly like the actual going through the birth scenario, like that's very difficult, in that you're seeing your partner go through something very traumatic, and it is traumatic. And in that sense, you are helpless, because you just sat there and you're like, all you can do is support them. But really there's no actual support that you can give them that's going to help that much. It's really interesting experience.
How have you noticed any changes in yourself over that period? And obviously this podcast is usually about sort of wellness and mental health in some kind of way. Now, obviously, we've discussed this off the podcast that you basically haven't had a good night's sleep in 4 weeks now. And maybe a little bit prior to that, actually. But can you just tell us what the reality of that is in regards to, like, how often do you have to get up in the middle of the night? For people who don't know anything about babies, how often are you getting up, and how long for?
It does. It varies. It varies. I think at the moment, as of recording this podcast, I'm getting up. Well, previously I was doing all of the night feeds because Sam was recovering. So I was doing all the night feeds. So I was getting up probably like 3 times a night for anywhere between an hour and a half and 2 hours or more, sometimes. So like that period was quite rough. Now we're splitting the workload. So I'm doing the first feed of the night, and then Sam tends to do the second feed of the night. Depending on how timings work out, there's either 2 or 3 feedings. At the moment, that will change, no doubt, pretty soon. But it tends to be like a couple of hours at a time. Luckily for me, I love basketball. So the NBA playoffs are on at the moment. So I pretty much get an entire game with each feed. So I'm like, that's fine.
Sorted. Do you know what? Sorry to interrupt you. I had absolutely I knew that you'd be getting up throughout the night, but I had no idea or any kind of concept of how long you'd be awake for. In my head, it was like, you'd get up, you'd do 10 minutes, quarter of an hour maybe, where you go like, okay, we need to feed you, put you back to sleep, great. And then like the reality of it being that long, it's like, oh no, this isn't like something you can do half asleep and get the little guy back in that position. You're like, oh no, we are awake.
Yeah. And it's that thing. It's so interesting, I think. Like, I felt pretty prepared going into it.
I felt like I'd as prepared as a human being could be.
I'd done research. I knew roughly what I was doing, I thought. And I thought I'd prepared as well as possible. But then the reality of the situation, like in the hospital, you get handed the baby for the first time and they're like, okay, feed him. And I was like,
what do you mean?
How? Do you want to tell me how? And they would just walked off and I was like, okay, all right. Okay, I guess I have to feed him. And you kind of end up just learning by doing. And that's been a surprise to me, is that like everything I thought I knew, I didn't know. And it's now like, it's just a matter of learning on the job. And there's only so much you can do. And it's so easy to put loads of extra pressure on yourself. But actually, like, we're all in the same position. Like, none of us know anything about it. So you just got to do it and see what happens. And yeah, it's a
wild ride.
I keep saying it's a wild ride, but it genuinely is a wild ride.
I feel like there's something that happens as you get a bit older, and I think this is one of maybe the crucial factors, is that there's an almost acceptance that, I don't think I'm quite there yet, but an acceptance of your parents as human beings rather than as the sort of, when you were a kid, they were everything.
Yeah.
Hopefully if they were around for you, and then you go, oh, I resent them for fucking me up the way they have. And then there's they would hopefully doing their best.
Yeah.
Flaws, warts and all. And I think maybe what you're describing, at least to my ear, it helps me to realize, and perhaps going through that process yourself goes, oh, it's actually like, if I get one poor night's sleep, like, I'm a considerably less nice human the next day. If you've had 2 years of piss poor sleep, like, the outcome of that is going to be like not an optimal human being in the best possible way.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, you seem to be, like I've said this to you before, you don't look exhausted, even though I know you are. Mm-hmm. And don't worry, we haven't spruced Bobby up for this podcast.
No, I currently look horrific.
I disagree.
I'm wearing a lovely top. I'm not going to deny that's a lovely top. But I look, I look an absolute mess. Like, my hair, my beard, my voice, like, I'm a bit of a hot mess currently. And that's fine. Like, the fact that I'm managing to get up every day and shower is a win in my book.
I think it's amazing. And it's also worth mentioning from the point of our business, right, that we didn't go into this unplanned.
No, we knew exactly. We had planned exactly how this was going to go down, like, ahead of time. We knew, like, you and I
with contingencies.
You and I knew what it was going to look like, how we were going to make it work, what I needed to do, what you needed to do. Like, we were very careful going into this kind of, as I got closer to kind of the due date, we were very careful about what would happen the second we knew that it was happening. So, and I feel like we have navigated that, and just to, like, pat ourselves on the back, I feel like we've navigated that period brilliantly. And I'm very proud of kind of how we have kept everything going and everything still building as well in the same time.
Yeah, we're not just coasting along, just about barely keeping our clients happy. It's still like, people are getting an incredible service. You're still speaking to clients every single day. Like, there's slightly more working from home than there was previously.
Yeah,
but the structures we built in, I think, and kudos to you for that, because it's to actually carry that out in any kind of way that is functional mentally. I know how taxing that is when you want to put the TV on. And you mentioned that you need to watch something mindless because your brain can't focus. But when you're working, I'm like, fair fucks, man. Like, that is some top level work that you're cracking out, even when you've had zero sleep.
I will say the other day I was editing the podcast with Lenny, like, draped across me. I was one-handed editing the podcast. I was like, oh God, I don't know if I can make this work, but I did it. I made it work, and the podcast came out. So,
and there it is.
And there it is. So, yeah,
ladies and gentlemen,
that's multitasking at its finest.
But I think it's super important that people know, like, one of the things that obviously we've always said that we would try and, like we addressed earlier on, that we would try and share those our own journeys in an authentic way, that there's so much to cover with this that we would never be able to cover or that whole process or how that's felt for you in one episode, but actually it does mean that people can kind of come along on this journey now with you.
Yeah, like I feel like I could talk for hours about kind of the whole journey that it's been, like from the whole process, like even from like before we got pregnant. Like I could talk about all of this for a long time, and I will happily talk about pretty much all of it. There will be certain things I will leave out just for Sam and myself to keep private. But I'm happily, like particularly from now on, to be like an open book about all of this. And I think it's an interesting journey for me to be going on, and it's an interesting journey for me to share with everyone about what it's like to be a dad in the performing arts and running a business and
kind of busy,
and how that works, how you navigate it, how I now get back to performing, how we negotiate like all sorts of things. So I think it's going to be a fascinating journey moving forwards, and I love that I get to share it with you and with Fit2 and with the whole family and everybody.
And I don't think it's a negative in any way that we haven't shared that in like previously. I think people will understand. I don't think if it's coming across like I'm saying, hey, I wish we'd said earlier on. I don't think that's the case.
And I'm
saying I'm excited we can continue.
Yeah, I'm excited we can continue. And I think it's one of those things, like I feel like people are under pressure to always share everything about their lives. And actually, I like that Sam and I had that kind of 9 months of, we knew this thing, and obviously our close friends knew this thing, but it got to be ours and kind of nobody else's, and we were a little bit selfish in that maybe, but it felt nice, and it felt like something that we could go through together. And I wouldn't change it. I would actually, like, if I was to approach it again, I would approach it in exactly the same way, and keep it kind of our thing until we got to a point where people needed to know, because otherwise it becomes a strange thing where people go, oh mate, I haven't seen you in like a year, how's things going? And you're like, oh yeah, I've got a 3-month-old.
This is my baby.
You're like, oh. So
do you know what? I think it's tricky to understand that unless you've ever felt that. And for me recently is one of the first times I've understood that, with something we can chat about on another episode of a couple of things that have happened to me recently life-wise, where I've gone, and they're wonderful, positive things. I've gone, I don't feel like I want to share that right now, so that it can just be mine for a bit.
Yeah.
And then we've had the experience of a bunch of people who do know going, are you going to put that out? Are you going to put it on Instagram so that we can, and I'm like, so that you can what? Like, what's the outcome of that? Like, you don't have any more involvement than you do right now. You're already talking to me about it. Like, what is it? But it's strange, and I absolutely want to come with you on that journey of going, like, there's something about holding it as being like just this special thing for you for a moment, and then moving on. I do have one more question.
Go.
Just about that specific process, because we probably won't come back to it in this much detail, is in truth, right? Because when you watch in media, the first time you hold your baby, it is often this like insanely magical, life-changing moment for people. And then quite often in reality, what happens for some people is nothing at all. And then they feel awful about it or whatever. And then we have these diverging potential realities. Like, what was that moment like for you?
So I feel like I sit somewhere in the middle. I was so tired and so delirious by the point that he arrived.
Full wacky, you might say.
I was full wacky. That I didn't really feel anything. I wasn't really like that mentally there at that point. I think my main concern was for Sam at that point. And it was quite upsetting. So at that point, my main concern was for Sam. And then he arrived and I saw him, they dropped the curtain. I saw him, got a fantastic photo, which I know you've seen.
It's amazing.
And
he has jazz hands from the off.
I saw him and then I held him and I was just a bit like, oh, okay. I don't think I like put 2 and 2 together that this was my child. And I don't feel bad for that. I feel like that was just the situation. Like I was exhausted. Sam was exhausted. The whole process had been traumatic and he had arrived. And then that was it. I think probably what I felt more than anything was relief. I was relieved that it was done, that it was over, and that he was fine. As soon as I knew that he was like healthy, I was like, fine, fantastic. I feel relieved about that. Sam was fine, relieved about that. Okay, breathe.
Next steps.
It was kind of that feeling more than anything. And like since then, like I feel so like beautifully like attached to him, and like I look at him and I go, I can't believe you're here, and I can't believe where you've come from. I can't believe like you're ours. Like I have that, but I don't feel like there's not been a point where there's not been that like classic, like he held my finger for the first time and I was like, oh my God.
And your world ended.
Oh my God, it's my baby. There's not been that. It's been like, it's life now.
Yeah.
The reality is it's life now. Our life has an extra person in it. And
I love that so much. I love that you're able to put that message across and your experience across in that way, because in my family, there's been a few people who've had children who have not felt that bond, and maybe not felt that bond for a really long period of time. And, that is hugely taboo to speak about, or at least was, and hopefully it's slightly less so now. And actually, for some of them, that's been 6 months, 7 months, where you're like, I now have a baby that I feel zero connection to in any way, shape or form. And then you have this horrible guilt and trauma that comes with that something's wrong with you and all this other stuff. And actually the point is, like any relationship, because it's a living thing that you have to build a relationship with, that's going to grow. And that will either be very, very rapidly grow for some people, or will grow very slowly over time. But by not having a stigma attached to it and just allowing that to happen is the thing that will hopefully let it happen.
Yeah, exactly. Who's to say what you should feel and when you should feel it? Like, you just feel what you feel, and nothing's a bad thing. Like, don't beat yourself up about it. Like, it just is what it is. You're on a journey. It's a brand new thing. You don't know how you should feel. Nobody else knows how you should feel. So just like embrace the journey. And yeah.
Do you know what? I'm going to, by the way, I've put you on the spot this entire podcast. None of this is planned or prepped, by the way. So if anybody's listening to this thinking, oh, maybe he's let him know what questions he's going to ask in advance. Nope. We basically never do that anyway. So I've got one last one, which is, and then I actually don't think we should do a coaching thing on this, because I actually think this is incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
So no pressure on this one. Do you have any advice to somebody who either, maybe people who want to have a baby who are performers, or people who are expecting and going to very soon have a child? Like, what advice would you give them of like what to do to prep for that moment, or any advice at all?
I think kind of shut out the noise. Like, it's a very personal thing and it's a very individual thing, the pregnancy and everything around it. And you just got to go on it. You got to go on that journey yourself and prepare as much as you can. Don't feel bad for not preparing loads. Don't feel guilty for not preparing loads. Like, because when you get to it, it's going to be a different beast in itself. So I think we put loads of pressure on ourselves in this kind of situation of going, oh God, how am I going to, I need to make sure I look after it the best way possible. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to support it. And you go, well, you're just going to have to do it. And it's great. And it's like, it's just that thing of going, like, everybody's experience is completely different, and that's fine. And you have your experience and you deal with it as best you can along the way. You're going to make mistakes. Things are going to go wrong, but you are going to be fine. Like,
I love that.
Yeah.
In fact, that's great advice for life, isn't it? We didn't do a joke at the beginning of this.
No, and we haven't yet done my fact of the day. I do have a fact for you.
Do you want to hit us with a fact of the day? Because the joke is wildly disappointing. Okay. So it's always fun to end on that.
Are you ready?
Yeah, hit me with it.
Lego bricks withstand compression better than concrete. An ordinary plastic Lego brick is able to support the weight of 375,000 other bricks before it fails. This theoretically would let you build a tower nearing 3.5 kilometers in height. Scaling this up to house-sized bricks, however, would cost far too much.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah, one brick can support the weight of 375,000 other bricks.
Kind of here for that. Maybe that's the future. If I buy enough Lego, I reckon I can just build a house.
Yeah.
It's a bit Ed Sheeran for me.
Oh, God, I knew that you were going to do that.
Okay, here's the joke.
Okay.
Why isn't the personal trainer paying rent?
I do not know.
Because he's a squatter.
Oh, God, Jesus.
Hey, just to bring the tone down at the end.
My tired brain enjoyed that.
We needed it. Listen, if you like our information, then head over to our website, fit-2. I always say dash.
I say dash. Dash is fine. It's fit.
Do people know what dash is? Fit-2.co.uk. There we go. And click on our resources. We have a special promotion on right now. And because you're a listener, you can download our How to Lose Fat in 3 Steps guide absolutely free. But that isn't 3 physical steps, just so you know. That's not how it works. The code that you need is Fit2Talk, all in capitals, and the number 2, Fit2Talk. And it's usually paid, but free for you with the code.
Yes, it is. And you can find us on social media at Fit2 Perform West End. Leave us a sexy old review on here. And as always, if you've got any questions you want answered by us, you know what to do. Slip slide into those DMs. I'll be in there probably awake because I'm looking after a small child.
Thank you for joining us. And if you like what you've heard, then we have been Fit2Talk with me, Stefan.
And me, Bobby. And if you didn't like it, we've been Joe Wicks. Peace out.